Thank you for listening to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast, available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music. Also, please follow Matt's Movie Reviews on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, X, and Rumble. And of course, be sure to visit mattsmoviereviews.net for the latest reviews, top 10 lists, and more. Now, onto the show.
They've got my gun. What's in the gun? How many bullets are left in this thing? Think.
Your little Houdini stunt on the chain gang cost me a promotion.
You ran out of jail, so you could come out.
Always nice.
And don't try to take off, man. We both know I got faster reflexes than you can.
I need to buy some more time.
I know it's not fair. What happened to you? It was a bad beat.
Does anyone know him out?
Yes, Cat.
Don't make it worse. Please.
Where did you drive here?
65 miles an hour.
Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I am your host, Matthew Pejkovic, and this is episode number 556. Releasing September 29 in theaters across the US and on video on demand is Headcount, a crime thriller that stars Aaron Jakubenko as an escaped convict who, in his bid to hold on to his freedom, embarks on a journey of love, death, and redemption one bullet at a time. A twist-filled neo-western featuring a strong sense of style and memorable performances, Headcount also features the directorial feature film debuts of Jacob and Ben Burghart, who I'm glad to say join me now on the podcast. Jacob and Ben, I thank you both very much for your time today.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
So, Jacob, I wanted to ask about the short film that you guys did 9 years ago, or the same title, Headcount. And for people out there, you can actually watch it on YouTube. It's a really great watch. It goes around 5 or 6 minutes or so. Really fantastic work you guys did there back, what was that, like 2014 now, I guess it will be, right? So you guys have created a number of shorts over the years. You're very prolific in that sense. So what is it about Headcount as a short that really spoke to you and Ben in regards to, this will be the feature film that we're gonna make based on the short that we did beforehand? What was about that film, that story, and that style that you thought would make a really good opening statement for you as a feature film director?
It's a great question. When we've been trying to get a feature made for a long time, and we had a horror movie we really wanted to make, and eventually what we kind of decided was, we need to kind of pare it down. We need to write something smaller, something that is more manageable, that we can shoot here in the area with the resources we have available. And Ben said, why don't we see about Headcount? What if we can flesh this out? And what we ended up doing was, using that structure, that unique structure of that short film, to sort of make this feature that's almost a set of short films back and forth within it itself. And once we had this idea for this character running throughout the feature, it was really fun and easy to put together. And like I said, we had access to, a honky-tonk bar. We had access to a 67 Mustang. And as we were writing the script, we said, we got to save money. We have to do this our way. So let's write in what we have and let's be resourceful. And I'm really proud of how it all turned out.
Ben, I read that like the early work of the Coen brothers, Sam Raimi, is like something that really kind of inspired and resonated with you guys as filmmakers. the thing that I really took from the movie as well, though, is a really strong kind of 70s aesthetic to the movie as well. And of course, you talked about the '67 Mustang and the honky tonk bar, but there's also other things to the film as well. The look of the film, there's a certain cowboy aspect to it. Of course, it is a modern Western, but it also speaks to certain films of the '70s that kind of like had that kind of type of stuff as well. Did the look of the film, did that come beforehand, that you wanted to make something with that kind of aesthetic in the first place with the '70s look, or does the resources that you had, the honky tonk bar, the car, kind of set the tone of the look of the movie that people are going to see in a couple of weeks?
Right. So me and Jake, we do a lot of pre-visualization. We do a lot of, storyboarding, and then we make a lot of mood boards. We make, some cinematic trailers, some Rip-O-Matic trailers, and all of these things kind of fell into that Western '70s aesthetic. And so we knew that was going to be the seed of how the film was going to look, all the way through like the clothes that people wear. And then we kind of wanted to create this idea of when people think of Kansas, what is the fairy tale version of Kansas that we want to paint in these people's minds? And we're like, okay, people are still using, old phones that are attached to the wall, but they're also using, modern day cell phones. They're all dressing, a little more Western, and they're driving these older cars. And then there's newer cars. And I think just kind of making it this melting pot of all of these different styles kind of helps make it so it's not set in a certain time period. You don't look at it and say, oh, they definitely filmed this in like 2020 or anything like that. So I think that kind of works to the film's advantage. And then obviously when it came to finding, like that bar or that Mustang or all these other places, we go, what's a place that looks older and has like kind of a rundown feel, so that we don't have to put money into the set design and things like that. We don't have to build, this person's house that looks like it hasn't been touched since like the '60s. And, we knew that was what the aesthetic was going to be. And then we set out to find things and places and props and that would fit that mold.
So Jacob, you got this '70s aesthetic, you got the tone you're looking for, the style you're looking for. It's set in Kansas, where you guys are from, but there's a strong Australian connection to it as well, which really kind of like I picked up on straight away. We talked about Aaron Jakubenko in my introduction, Melanie Zanetti, Ryan Quanton, all these people, Australian actors in your film. How did that Australian connection come about? Does that come about through your association with Continuance Pictures? Is that kind of like how that all happened, or is there another way that it was just happenstance that these Aussie actors got together?
Yeah, through Continuance, we kind of partnered up early on for this, and they were really great in getting the script in front of some of their connections, some actors they knew, including Ryan. And yeah, once they were interested and they felt like they connected with the script, it really helped us flesh out the rest of the cast. And yeah, through their connections, we found Aaron, we found Melanie, and I think we were a little. The only concern we had was just making sure we got the accents right. And it's not a Southern accent. It's not a Texas accent. It's not a Northern Minnesota accent. It's kind of devoid of accent. Kansas is, and they all rose to the occasion and did a really incredible job. Other than that, Kansas itself is a bit of a, pretty flat, a little barren. Bit of a maybe feels a little forgotten. There's maybe I could see a bit of a kinship with Australia in some ways. It's just kind of its own thing in a ways. And yeah, again, they just did such a great job. All these actors rising to the occasion and filling it out that I don't think you would know.
Ben, it's really interesting. So when I think about the style of film and the influences that it harkens back to, I think to myself, what happened to the American badass actor? Because lately, over the last 20 years or so, it seems like a lot of the badass characters that are showing up in American films are from other places, Australia, England, Ireland, for example. And when I think of the '70s, I'm thinking Burt Reynolds, Clint Eastwood, Steve McQueen, guys like that, American bred and born actors. What do you think it is that there's that shift now? Do you think it's just a generational thing? Do you think it's a global thing? Do you think like the opening of the floodgates open from, especially from like the mid-90s onwards, to other actors from different places putting on American accents and appearing in these films? Do you think it's a thing now where, I don't know, casting directors and other people as well just go for more an international flavor when playing these characters for one reason or another?
Yeah, I think a part of it is that the audiences today take in so much more media and get a little more sophisticated because, your big muscle-bound kind of action stars like Schwarzenegger or Van Damme and Stallone in the 80s, that became, that it's like it's an unrealistic kind of interpretation of what you would consider a hero. And then I think as people, take in more media and get smarter, they go, how do I have a hero that could be like an everyday man, like a John McClane or something like that, where these action heroes are now more thinking with their minds and kind of their skill set as opposed to just brawn. And I think our character definitely utilizes, his memory and his mind to get out of these situations. And, people, they just make fun of it nowadays. They're like, oh, that's just some big, strong guy, like whatever. They want the cool, like mysterious, heady kind of protagonist. I don't know if Jake has more to add to that or the better spin.
Well, the other part of his question, and this is such a good question, and I wish I was smart enough to answer this, because if you look at all this, who's the last Spider-Man? Tom Holland. He's not American. Who are all the Batmans? Christian Bale, Robert Pattinson. When have we had an American Batman recently?
And I think like Affleck, I guess you can say, but the big ones are like the Pattinson and Bale, right? So
yeah.
Superman, Henry Cavill.
Yeah, and we see all these Australian actors, Margot Robbie and Liam. Not Liam,
Chris
Hemsworth,
and,
the
Chris
Hemsworth and
yes.
Jackman,
the Hemsworths, and then even Swedish actors like I cannot think of anyone's names today. The guy who played it, the kid who played it.
Skarsgård.
The whole Skarsgård.
I don't necessarily look at it as like America in decline of putting out actors. I just see it as like everything has become more globalized and more actors are coming in. And I would like to see, like, I think it hasn't gone far enough. I can't name any big Chinese action stars off my head. I can't name any big Korean off my head besides the Walking Dead guy, who I'm very bad with names today. So I would just like to see it get bigger and bigger. I think America's always going to have actors and big actors. We're always going to have Leonardo DiCaprio's. We're always going to have Jack Nicholson's and Paul Newman's. That was a big inspiration for this character. But I don't necessarily see it as like America is slacking. I just see it as, there's just the world has opened up and people are looking for more talent in all sorts of different places. And I don't know, maybe there's something about Australia where everybody is just brought up to be a good actor for some reason, because certainly a lot of talent.
Well, look, the same thing happened here. Our last Mad Max was Tom Hardy, and he's a Brit, so
The
Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by TeePublic. TeePublic is the world's largest marketplace for independent creators to sell their work on the highest quality merchandise. With over 1.2 million designs, TeePublic is sure to have something you love. Please support Matt's Movie Reviews on Patreon. Get access to exclusive content, request movie reviews and top 10 lists, and help support my work. Please click on the Patreon link in the description below. Jacob, I want to just talk about the character of Kat, who Aaron plays in the movie. The thing about him that speaks to me is that he's someone who's looking for freedom, but he's looking for it in the wrong ways. He sees freedom as a thing where he can do anything that he wants, and he doesn't appreciate the consequences that come with that. Which is funny, because the first thing you see of him is on a chain gang, right? Because you think he'd learn a lesson by then, but he doesn't. Do you think that the freedom that he's looking for, the freedom of, like, say, the Easy Rider generation, do you think that's just an illusion now? I mean, that can't be attained, right? I mean, that time of, like, no consequence freedom, do what you want, kind of like the hippie era kind of stuff that maybe he's kind of looking for. I myself believe that it's nothing that can ever be attained because, from freedom comes responsibility and from responsibilities come consequences. And I think for Kat, it's something that keeps coming up again and again and again and again.
I love this question. I think that feeling, that desire for freedom, maybe that is an American thing, but I think that's always going to be, I think this is always going to speak to people, whether, the Kerouac on the road, there's always going to be that generation that just needs to get out of there, that feels that drive for freedom. There's a lot of talk about trains in the movie, and that's very specific because during COVID, I was watching train hopping videos on YouTube over and over. I was just like, this is, for some reason now, this is my dream, is to just drop everything, forget COVID, and jump on a train and get out of here. So yeah, to me, Kat is a bit of a callback to those 70s characters, the Dennis Hoppers and the Paul Newmans and stuff, that desire to get out. But I don't know. Personally, I think that feeling is eternal, and I think I think it would hope that resonates with people for generations to come, because I think it's very human. And yeah, I mean, he should learn, shouldn't he? I hope he learns by the end, but he's just a little too smart for his own good. And that's something about the character I really connect with and appreciate. And yeah, that's how I saw it, at least.
Ben, throughout the movie, there's a scenario for every bullet that Kat has in his gun, and that's kind of like the central motive of the film. What was interesting was that when I watched the short film, like every scenario in the short film for those characters was totally different to what was in the movie. No repeats there. Did you and Jacob have like a list of scenarios that you guys had that you kind of like looked at and thought to yourself, these could work as a film, these might not work in the film? And if so, what type of different scenarios did you have Kat go through if you had some left on the drawing board, so to speak?
Yeah, it was a little bit more tricky when it came to putting it into feature length, because these scenarios in the short film, like you said, the scenarios are very different and they barely connect. I think like one character like comes back in one of them. But for this, we knew that we had to, even though these were all going to be different, we knew these all had to have a through line and a thread. It had to make sense. And you still had to have character arcs. And, there had to be events that affect, future bullets and stuff like that. So I think a part of that, we really love writing scenarios and then kind of fleshing out, how that affects the character later, or set pieces and stuff like that. So I think we had, we looked at some of the situations where like, okay, we have this bar, let's have a scenario there. We have this car, let's do something with that. And then we also wanted to not just have the gun just shooting people and killing people. Like we wanted the gun to go off in unique ways and be taken out of the gun and things like that. I think the only interesting one that we couldn't quite get to work was that we really wanted to do one of the scenes in reverse, to where the entire thing, it starts with the gun. All of these end with the gun going off, and then it goes to the next one. We wanted to start one where the gun goes off initially, and then you kind of work backwards to see how or why it went off. And it was too much of a leap to get people to. There suddenly was in reverse, and we were like, "This is too far. We can't do that." But it was a dream to get it to work. I don't know if Jake had any other ones.
Well, there's a big, beautiful drive-in movie theater by my house, and we were trying really like, that's another piece of like American culture that goes throughout all the generations, the drive-in movie theater, and we just couldn't quite figure out how to work it into the movie. But that's one, I would say.
Ben, I just wanted to ask you as well, in regards to the editing of the scenarios. You worked with Edward Schroer, who is your editor in your short films as well. When you're in post-production, a lot of filmmakers tell me all the time, post-production, like editing, is where the film kind of comes together. But this story, your film in particular, the non-linear storytelling of it could be kind of like a tricky puzzle to put together. What was the editing, post-production stuff like for this movie? Because I imagine that trying to get the jumps, the cuts, and everything right with everything that's going on would have been a bit of a tricky process.
Yeah, the thing is, we storyboard everything. So we already had the entire film on paper, and then we're storyboarding these edits and these major cuts that happen in the film, so we know that they're coming. They don't. I mean, when you get to the editing room, that doesn't mean they always work. Sometimes you got to work around them, and me and Jake are editors as well, so we kind of we're kind of like over and shoulder a lot for better or worse. So we certainly don't like say, we don't give them a month and say, yeah, show us something. And then we'll give a few notes and we'll come back. Like we're there, we're in the nitty gritty. We're saying, cut a couple frames, leave a couple frames, but his expertise and then his, he has a real passion for storytelling helps as well. And a part of that is, having putting out a version and then having people watch and review it and be like, I didn't get this, like this doesn't connect, and then it's like a test audience in a smaller kind of chamber, but then you end up going back and changing things and making some things more clear, cutting things out. We had to cut things out even though this film is so short and small. We still had to cut things, and eventually you just get it to the point where enough people think it makes sense to where you got to pull the trigger, because there is no scenario in any film where everyone gets everything. You got to get just the highest percentage you can and be like, all right, we got it.
Yeah.
Jacob, when it comes to when you finally show your film to an audience, I know you guys did some festival screenings of the movie and such. When you see it and people are watching it finally, what is your relationship with the film at that point? Because I've spoken to a lot of filmmakers. Some say, oh, I wish I could still do this, I wish I could still do that. Others say, I'm done with it, it's out in the world, I can't do anything else with it. What's kind of like your philosophy in regards to a completed film as soon as it goes out into public?
What did you say earlier, Ben? It's never
like they say films are abandoned, not finished, but I don't know if I believe that.
Yeah, I think I think I'll be all right. I'm just thinking about the next movie and what I can learn from this movie to apply to the next one. And, watching it with a crowd, it's always fun because you don't know what people are going to laugh at. You hope they laugh at the right things. You hope that they're engaged. If they're laughing, if they're screaming, if they're quiet, then these are all really good signs that they are paying attention. The phone is a very tempting device, so I really just hope that it connects with people, and I think it will. Yeah,
I think for me, a part of this is very much my opinion, but a part of being a good artist is being like, it's done. Like hang it on the wall. The painting's done. I'm not going to touch it anymore. I'm moving on to the next thing. So I think it's a little cruel for filmmakers to watch and say, all right, or, they keep doing re-releases of, George Lucas keeps re-releasing Star Wars and changing. It's like, just let it lie and, move on to the next and, make the next one even better. Like stop trying to make the one you've already made a little bit better and make the next thing you make like totally better. So.
So, Ben, in regards to the next film, from what I could see on the good old IMDb discography, there's a title called Follow the Leader. It's a horror film. Jacob, you referenced a horror film in beforehand in regards to something that you guys were trying to get off the ground. Is that the next step for you guys to go? Is that the feature that you guys have been trying to get off the ground for some time now?
We're trying. We're trying. Yeah, it's. Yeah, hopefully this will get us in front of, hopefully this will help us get connected with some actors who might be interested in working with us, and that could get us the funding. But we also have a lot of other horror movies that we haven't told anybody about, that we have, that we have finished, that we're ready to show to people that aren't on IMDb. But yeah, Follow the Leaders, that's the big one we've been trying to do for a long time. And yeah, that would be a lot of fun. That's ready to go as soon as somebody, gives us the green light. But yeah, we have a lot of stuff we want to do, mostly horror, a few other kind of thrillery things, maybe even set in Kansas. But, we're just really excited for whatever comes next, and we're ready. Absolutely.
And again, with all these other things like this, it's not, this is a neo-Western, but, there's other genres and stuff that bleed into it that make it a little more friendly for the audience. So I think all of our ideas normally have some like interesting hook to them. And then it kind of has a main genre, but then is very cognizant and kind of integrates other ones to keep it a little more fresh. So. The Follow Leader, it's on there. The people, it exists. We're trying.
So for everyone out there listening, September 29 in theaters across the US and on video demand. Headcount. Now, you can watch it on video on demand, but I really recommend everyone go to the theater and watch this movie because I think it's a film that needs to be seen in the theater because I love the look of the film. I like the photography. I think the post-production elements in regards to the kind of like the revolver and how it kind of plays in with the film's narrative and the plot is really, really well done. And I think, and also, it's just a great way to just log off and just let go and enjoy movies as they're supposed to be made. So I really recommend people do watch it in cinemas. If there's a cinema near you that's showing Headcount, do watch it. And guys, congratulations to you both, Jacob and Ben. You did a really great job here with Headcount. A really solid feature film directorial debut from both of you. Really entertaining. Really well done to both of you. And I want to congratulate you both for the film and best of luck with the film's release as well.
Thank you,
Matthew.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content. Also, if you would like to request a review and support my work, please join my Patreon via the link in the description below.